guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's football show, sponsored by Arnold Clark and diluting orange juice as well. Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam here with us to talk football. Don't forget, you can follow us. That's the way ahead. Follow us on our Facebook page. And if you get a chance, why not hit the share button and some of your mates can join the football family as well. We'd love to have you on board with us. If you love your club, if you're passionate about football, then why not follow us on our Facebook? And if you're on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button, the red button on the screen, and join us there as well. So, lots to talk about. Of course, the fallout from Celtic undoubtedly will continue. We'll look at Aberdeen Livy tonight. We'll reflect on a wonder goal in the Dundee United St Johnstone game. One of our pundits is very happy because he predicted a draw. We'll get his thoughts as well, see if you can work it out from the smiles. And we're going to talk about, of course, it wouldn't be Scottish football without an argument, a fight, a fallout. And that's exactly what's happening at the moment as the SPFL clubs in the lower leagues certainly voiced their displeasure at a meeting today regarding the cancellation of their football. Only the Premiership and the Championship continuing, and many of the clubs feel aggrieved because they were not consulted on this. Falkirk have just released a statement, and here's the basis of their anger. We've held off making our thoughts public, awaiting clarification from the SPFL meeting today. Unfortunately, that meeting did not provide any clearer understanding of the justification for the decision. On Monday, we received communication from the SFA and SPFL notifying us of their decision to suspend football below championship level. This decision came with no prior consultation with our club. We are well aware of recent failures which have brought these concessions into focus. Unfortunately, only some clubs have been made to carry the can for those failings. And it goes on to say in that final paragraph, those in the upper reaches of the league pyramid have been allowed to continue on top of being rewarded disproportionately with the Scottish Government funding. And the double standards is there for everyone to see. So that's Falkirk Chairman Gary Deans, what he had to say. And he's not the only one, Roughie, of all those clubs angry with what's happened.
Yeah, I think they're angry because of there was no consultation at all. It was just a decision made with no evidence or facts put in front of everybody before they made that decision. And I think that's what's angered the most of people. A lot of people just can't get their head round, the evidence. That there is no evidence that the lower leagues have attracted more COVID trouble than the higher league. I think we've all seen that most of the clubs in the Premiership, like Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Hamilton, Aberdeen, Celtic, have all come into some kind of COVID problem. We haven't seen anything documented for the first and second division, so I think that's the main problem, and I think they all know that they have to be tested. The testing thing was the big one. Majority of the clubs said, yes, we will be tested. I would like to think that the handout of money that everybody got would be enough to test for 3 weeks. I think that's another thing as well. But I think it's just the lack of communication. And then again, it brings the SPFL into that fit and purpose thing that a lot of people don't think that everything's been run properly. I do believe it was a Zoom meeting. I know that Zoom meetings are difficult, but I don't even think 2 or 3 clubs get a chance to ask a question. It was just done and dusted. Thanks very much. See you later on.
Yeah, I mean, I have great sympathy for that predicament. And just a question I've got to ask you, Roughie, before I get the thoughts of Charlie and Tam on this. Obviously, they found out after the communication had obviously been out to members of the media, and we were all able to divulge the news. Some clubs finding it out across social media and broadcasters. I just wonder, Roughie, one, do you think there was pressure from the government and this was a form of appeasement? And two, is the decision maybe based on the fact that they were looking at the lower leagues and thinking they wouldn't be able to test, especially with the additional restrictions that Nicola Sturgeon wants in place? I mean,
But
can you shed any light on that?
no, well, I think that's what the clubs are annoyed about. There was no communication. There was no memo sent out. Here, we're a wee bit worried about the way things are going. We really think you need to start testing again. Have you got the money to test for 3 weeks? And then the consultation could have happened, but that wasn't the case. And again, it's unfortunate that the likes of us and Falkirk are full-time clubs in a part-time setup, and we've got different values for everybody else. I mean, we've already read now in the papers that there are some clubs don't even want to play at the end of the season. And that was forecast as well, right for the very start when we were talking about league reconstruction. Let's have a vote on who wants to bin the season and who wants to carry on, and we can judge the leagues accordingly. And now we're getting some clubs, and quite rightly so, maybe, who don't want to go from now to the end of the season to pay their players, so that they just want to bin the season. And it's just unfortunate for the clubs who do want to carry on that they're caught in the middle of it. And the other thing as well is, I think everybody forgets that Arbroath and Alloa are part-time clubs playing in that championship. So they come into the same criteria as the first and second division teams, because their players are away working and away and doing other things.
I mean, the Stenhousemuir chairman, Ian McManamy, he's let rip in the last couple of days. He's certainly not happy at this, and he feels as if, all the other clubs are being punished in the lower leagues for the misdemeanours of the bigger clubs, Tam.
Yeah, listen, I spoke about that the other day. I feel as if it wasn't really a coincidence that the day that Celtic came out with all the positive tests from Dubai, that the plug was pulled on the lower leagues. I just think that we're very, very close to the whole thing being pulled. You see Nicola Sturgeon today, obviously extra, things getting put in place for Scottish people up in this country. So I think that it is very, very close. That football is going to get stopped here. I think one more strike, and everybody's out in terms of football. So I agree with everything that Roughie was saying for the first time. I think he was absolutely bang on there what he was saying. About the part-time clubs in the Championship that are get players out working. What's the difference between them and the likes of East Fife or Albion Rovers and teams like that? So it doesn't seem fair on the teams in the lower leagues to do this, and it particularly doesn't seem fair on Partick Thistle and Falkirk, who are quite rightly very, very angry.
And the double whammy on this, Charlie, is quite simply that a lot of clubs feel as if government money has been spread about unfairly.
Yeah, listen, I could see the point of view of every club and the share of the money. For me, it depends on what league that you're in, the amount of money that you get. So it's obviously it is tough for the lower league clubs, but it's hard for me as a player to talk about what's going on. I'm in a position where we got tested yesterday and just want to keep playing and hoping that we can. But like Robbie said, I think one more strike and I think the game could be gone now. So I just think we've got to worry what's going to go. And I could see the point of view of, League 1 and League 2 clubs going because they are part-time. I understand Alloa and Arbroath are part-time, but if they clubs, what I believe was that the Championship clubs agreed at the start of the season that if testing come back in, they were happy to test. So that is the situation that I believe. That's what I got told yesterday, and that's where we're at. So Arbroath and Alloa are happy to test the players, pay the money, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't know if you can remember this, Tam, but I am now of the opinion that we need changes. We need a change in the people who control the game in Scotland.
We need a reconstruction of the league. We need a reconstruction.
Yeah.
The leagues need to be. We need a 14 league Premier League and 12 for the rest. It's not sustainable now.
Well, I would take that further, Charlie. I was going to go back to an interview I conducted with Lachlan Cameron. You'll remember, Tam, all those months ago when he suggested some kind of franchise setup similar to America. I genuinely think we need to look at the restructuring of the game and how we actually collectively look at our national sport and how it's run and funded. Because quite simply, if it's continually about the greed of satisfying the clubs in the top flight, then I think the rest of the clubs need to come up with something that is run by a body that cares about them. And I think quite rightly, a lot of chairmen today are coming out, Tam, and saying, I don't really care about what we're doing at the bottom end of this. You only have to look at the evidence of what's unfolded over the last 8-9 months as far as where the priorities lie in Scottish football. There needs to be, yes, restructuring, I think, as Charlie mentioned there, but I think there needs to be a clear out of some people who are absolutely stuck in an ethos of the way Scottish football should be run. There needs to be a greater appreciation of what other clubs are doing. And I think some people need to go, and some fresh blood needs to be brought in to change and hopefully come up with a plan that is for the benefit of all rather than for the benefit of the few.
I think that you look back at the voting at the end of last season. I think that was clear that everybody was voting in their own interests, and that can't happen in Scottish football. You've got to look at the greater picture. I think when you look at Hearts getting relegated and Partick Thistle getting relegated, which we were all firm on, we all thought that was a joke. We thought that there should have been reconstruction. We all said it on this show for months. Banging our head against a brick wall. And now you're seeing Partick Thistle in particular, I think, really, really suffering because of the decision that was made at the end of last season. They're now stuck in a division. Now they're not playing. They're full time. They've got to pay wages. Partick Thistle, I feel very, very sorry for. But there's also other clubs lower down that you've got to vote for the greater good, and you've got teams in the top flight who want to play Celtic and Rangers. They want to have those fixtures. They want to protect themselves in that league and not vote for 2 or 3 relegation places like was we were thinking about last season. So you're right. I think that Neil Doncaster, you've got guys on the SPFL board as well. I think there's got to be a clear out. And you look at guys like Lachlan Cameron, who's just obviously just sold their United. Why not bring him in? Get him on a think tank. Get him in to get some ideas from him. He's obviously in America, and get him in to try and look for some stuff that you can possibly do to improve Scottish football. That's guys like that who've got fresh ideas about the game here, because it's just the same people every single time. We're never going to change if it's the same people in charge.
Yeah, I think it needs a fresh outlook, Roughie. I don't know about you. You know firsthand because of the Partick Thistle connection of how your club has suffered, and now a lot of people. I don't think anybody could have second guessed the pandemic and the effect it's having, but we certainly could second guess the way people were going to react with regards to their clubs. You only have to look at the evidence to see the way they've conducted themselves.
Yeah, I think the first thing, and Tam touched on it briefly there, the first thing is the voting structure. And we all know how that happened, because clubs were pandering, and Rangers and Celtic were calling the shots. And to have any vote that you need to get through in the top division, you need 11 out of the 12. To have 75% down the road, the percentages are all wrong. They're not democratic at all. That has to be looked at. But again, Tam's touched on the Ayr United boy, but there are other people, there are big people like Walter Smith, people like that. Football people who would be welcomed onto boards like that, who could make the footballing decisions. Yeah, you need the other guys, you need the professional advisors and the lawyers and all that, but I just think it needs a shake-up. It just needs new people, new ideas and that voting system needs to be changed. I don't know how you change it down the line, but it has to be restructured for the benefit of everybody and not just the Premier League.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Roughie, maybe suggesting people who are football people to come on. I don't think that's what's needed. I think they need to actually save themselves from some of the people who they're solely motivated by the greed of a few rather than the needs of the many. And quite simply, I think it needs a rethink on people coming on with fresh marketing ideas, with the ability to go out and get a sponsor that would be able to bring in additional money that could be filtered down through the leagues, to be able to go out and get a sponsor for the other leagues as well, to be able to get a collection of sponsors that suddenly will be catered for and understood in their needs and promoted and marketed. And then what you've got to do is you've got to go and get somebody who'll take all 4 leagues and promote it and try and get lots of people back to the game with the right image. Now, that sounds simple, but it's mightily difficult when you consider what we've gone through in the last 9 months, because not many sponsors would touch Scottish football with a barge pole because it's poison. And it's been poisoned by the antics of chairmen and chief executives up and down the country. And it needs a complete rethink, because not one person in the SPFL can come up with a half-decent sponsor, can hold on to a half-decent sponsor, because they're all arguing with each other. It's an absolute shambles. And it's only been heightened by the sad fact that we have, as a country, and globally, the world, has had a pandemic, which is you would hope that people would actually collectively look to try and protect each other. But all we've seen is division and infighting. I mean, at a time when we should all collectively try and save each other, all we've seen in Scottish football is people bickering, backstabbing, WhatsApp groups, trying to protect their own interests, and then thinking to themselves, well, we don't want this reconstruction. Let's bang these two clubs out the door. Let's relegate them. Who cares about them? We're not doing reconstruction. We're not doing it now. We're not doing it in the future. And we're not changing the voting rules. I think it needs a restructuring of the game to be able to sell it as a product. And our product is tainted at the moment, Tam.
Yeah, as Peter, you're spot on what you're saying there. Listen, it's wrong. The clubs are getting relegated, and now they're paying the price now. I spoke briefly before about Partick Thistle. You know, what happened to them was an absolute disgrace. And now they are in a league where they're struggling to get out of. And I think it's lucky that Partick Thistle have got a few quid been left by the grateful Mr. Weir, who put a lot of money into the club. But if not, you know, and the club's well run, Partick Thistle could be out the game. You know, so that's the decision that was made 8-9 months ago that's now coming home to roost. So you're spot on. Listen, it's been self-preservation from day one since the pandemic started, in the voting system, and now you're looking at it now, and clubs are really paying the price for it.
Yeah, and a lot of people are giving their own voice on this. Some people agreeing with me, some people disagreeing. Mr. Mackenzie says you weren't saying that when Celtic demanded to be league champions. Well, I have to tell you, we were. We were absolutely telling everybody in March that they had to think of everyone. There was a vote, certainly as Roughie's mentioned there, the votes that they wanted to change things. The whole thing was a shambles. So we were saying it in March about the changes that needed to be made. As far as the vote to end the league at that time, Celtic were 13 points clear. We did discuss that. And they are champions. If they called it now, you should hand the title to Rangers. Rangers should be champions. So it's not about that for anybody who is into this tribalistic Rangers or Celtic nonsense. This is about the collective of everyone. And it's time we started to think about everyone. You know, we're now in a situation where we're looking at putting Colt teams in, because they can jimmy the Colt teams in to the bottom league now, Roughie, because that will benefit Celtic and Rangers as well.
Yeah, I mean, Celtic and Rangers call the shots. There's no doubt about that. You know, and some ideas are good, some ideas are bad. You know, but if people cast their mind back, if Celtic and Rangers had the chance not to be in Scotland, then they would jump. And that's the bottom line. You know, you could see why they would want to jump. So you can see why a lot of people are upset. But it's the voting system for me in the Premier League is the one. You know, and you could maybe remind us all how that happened, what clubs voted for it and what clubs didn't. But the bottom line of the whole thing is to change this voting rule. It's the clubs that have to vote to change it. And as you've just said there, they're not going to change it. They're not going to change it because it doesn't. They're happy in their wee bit, you know, and they're not going to vote for something that's going to take them out of their wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, there was an opportunity when Rangers were out of the league for everybody to agree to change the voting from 11-1. And Aberdeen decided not to vote to get it changed. So there was a real opportunity for change. And that would have stopped a situation where big clubs decide most of what goes on from the SPFL. And that opportunity was squandered and lost. So now, God only knows what's going to happen. But again, I have great sympathy for Partick Thistle and all the other clubs, you know, that clearly are voicing their anger at the meeting, at obviously the fact that they were told, and some found out by social media, but as Roughie's just highlighted there, no consultation. Or even getting everybody together to communicate with each other and to try and come up with alternatives, or a safety issue here, which is, Roughie, has their money been offered for the shutdown again for 3 weeks?
No, there hasn't. There isn't even any definitive if it's 3 weeks. We know what happened the last time there was a lockdown. People were saying, if you're going to lock us down for 3 weeks and players are going to go away and train, it's going to take us 2 weeks to get back to where we were and all that carry on. And there's no promise that the epidemic's going to get any better. It could get worse. So, there's nobody out there they're only making the short-term decisions, and everybody's just got to go on with it. But I think if you would ask most of the clubs, do you want to pay for testing and keep playing and keep your players 100%, then they would have done it, because at this moment it's only 3 weeks. I don't know how much that would cost, but everybody's already had quite a healthy handout. So I'm sure a lot of clubs who couldn't afford it then probably could afford it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, lots of things to talk about, lots to get your thoughts on. I have to say, Charlie, somebody tried to steal your thunder last night again. I don't know if you spotted it, but boy, Lawrence Shankland scored an absolute belter for Dundee United. I mean, you must have been clapping your hands when you saw it.
No, well, to be fair, I seen it. I watched the game. I paid $12.50. I don't know. I couldn't believe I actually paid to watch it, but it was. It wasn't the greatest game, was it? I thought it was a poor spectacle really to watch. No real much quality apart from the goal. But what an effort from him. Do you know what I mean? Everybody keeps talking about him. Probably not had the season that he would expect from what he done last year to kick on again this year. But to score a goal like that, it's incredible. And, there's not many players around that can see things like that. And, fair play to him for that. But it's still 14 yards behind mine, so it's all right.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I have to agree with you there, Charlie. He'll not be able to take that away from you, even with a measuring stick. But on that point, and I think we have to discuss that and be fair to Lawrence Shankland, Tam, you can only deal with the stats that are there. He struggled to score this season. People can say, it's down to the service he's getting. Maybe it's down to the fact he's facing a better calibre of player. But the amount of players that have played with him and are up there at Dundee United who absolutely rave about him, and you can understand why they're raving about him. That was top drawer.
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish. To hit it first time, it's just come across his body a little bit. And sometimes you have to take a touch to tee yourself up. But it was actually rolling into his path, which I think makes it even more difficult. And he hits it clean as a whistle. I mean, he couldn't hit that any better. And it just dips under the crossbar. It was a fantastic goal. But for me, Lawrence Shankland, it's kind of stuck in the wrong team at the minute. I just think that they don't create enough chances for him. I think he's a top player. I think if he was playing in Hibs' team this season, he'd have 20 goals. I really do. I think, I watch Hibs every week, Peter and Christian Doige and Nisbet, they get plenty of chances. They get plenty of chances to score, particularly at home. And Shankland, watch the highlights. I don't watch Dundee every week, but watch the highlights. I don't see him missing many sitters and many chances in the highlights. I see him maybe doing stuff himself, and he was up at Aberdeen a couple of weeks ago and he was unlucky to hit the crossbar. But he's doing everything on his own. And the same with that goal last night, that was individual. That wasn't anybody setting him up. That was just his brain and individual quality. And I feel as if he was playing with better players up there, then he'd have more goals.
Yeah.
I've seen him a couple of times now, and I think he does his best. He's done his best work outside the goalposts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wants to link, and he comes too deep. He's coming beyond the midfielders because he's frustrated that he's not getting the ball. He knows he's their best player, and he's coming beyond their midfield trying to link the play when really
you get touches.
Yeah, to get touches because he's bored. I think he's bored of not getting any service, and it's down to service, the quality in the wider areas. It's not what he needs or what he's getting. So he thinks I need to go and join in the game, and it's taking away his threat of scoring goals. So if he can get back between the goalposts and scoring goals again, then listen, there'll be a matter of time for him getting a move. It's it might be January, it might be the summer, but I would like to see him more further forward and being a threat as a striker instead of coming dropping off it in midfield, And
I don't know if you're aware of this, Roughie. Double-edged question here for you, Roughie. Have you come off Twitter, Roughie? Because I've looked for you on Twitter and I can't find you anymore. Have you come off it?
I don't think I was ever on it. But
right.
I could see I could check what was on it, but I never posted anything that was on it. I checked Twitter
you were
every
on
night,
it last night.
But What?
Yeah. Well,
You were on it last
Charlie,
night.
you were on it. You were on it last night because this is why I'm asking you the double question, because McManus put on the classic goal where Zico bends the ball into the postage stamp for Brazil against Scotland. And the great thing about you, Roughie, and this is linked into Xander Clark as well from last night, which you'll be able to offer an insight into. When Zico hits the free kick for Brazil, Roughie, it is so far into the postage stamp. I mean, it is a top draw strike, but because of your ability to assess instantly whether you can be bothered going for a ball or not, you just looked and went, "That's a great hit. There's no point in me diving for this one. I'll look at it."
I said that. I said that to Andy Gorham once, when he was at Hibs with me, and I said to him, "There's no point in diving if you know you're not going to get it. It looks stupid."
So what was Jim Leighton doing all the years ago with David Gilmour's strike?
I know.
Oh, exactly.
Anyway, I still blame that Zico goal was Andy Roxburgh's fault, because he did he went to all the Brazil games, and before the game he did the dossier on them, and stupidly said free kicks, and he said, "You don't have to worry about Zico this time, Roughie. He doesn't take them. It's Janino, it's Socrates, or it's Eddard." And I went, "Oh, thanks very much, Andy." And I saw Zico. I saw him standing in the vicinity, and they all made runs. And I obviously didn't watch Zico's run. And actually, to be perfectly honest, I never saw it come out of the wall.
Well,
some strike one.
It was not only was it a great strike, Charlie, but the point I was about to make to you, Roughie. I mean, what's Xander Clark doing diving for that shot last night from Shankland?
His problem, and every goalkeeper will tell you, his problem is he never kept running backwards. As soon as you turn yourself to no face the ball, you're losing all your advantage of jumping to save it. If he'd have continued just to pedal back, he would have had a chance to leap up. But when he turns himself, you can't. There's no jump. You lose all your jump.
And for
but again, there you go.
For the benefit of, well, I was going to say to you, Tam, for the benefit of younger viewers who think to themselves, "What does Roughie know about top drawer goalkeeping?" Well, he knows because John Toshak had an absolute belter of a shot at Anfield, and Roughie, with the same mindset, thought, if I go back here rather than turning my body, I'll be able to tip it over the bar. And it was absolutely top drawer, world class from the bold Roughie. So I'm going to pass that on to Xander Clark. None of you swivelling your body. Just get back, scurry back.
Yeah, you won't have to. He'll know this morning. He'll have known last night what he did. He did wrong. It's just one of these things. But he would have been taken by surprise as well.
Yeah, it was a great goal. Listen, you get 2 points out of it, Tam. You're back in there with your 2 points from predicting a draw.
I did. I think Roughie predicted a draw as well, didn't you, Roughie?
No, me and Peter had 2-1.
Oh, did you? Oh, even better. Yeah. Oh, yes.
2-1 for Dundee United. Listen, Stephen Welsh, after the game against Hibernian the other night there, obviously was asked about the whole situation. It rumbles on. It's everybody and their grannies had their say on this whole Celtic debacle, the shambles. Stephen Welsh, the Celtic player, said, obviously, when the possibility that everybody was open to possibly being isolated, there was a real fear throughout the squad.
Personally, for everyone, a wee bit of panic because anyone can get it these days. So I think you're just hoping that you don't get the phone call that tells you you're isolating or positive. So I think personally for me, I'm quite happy that I don't need to isolate or anything, so I can go and play football. Well, you never think it's going to be you, so when it happens, it is a bit of a shock, but when the team get thrown together, you just need to get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the fear for the Celtic players who were told to isolate. But the worry that we've been talking about, Charlie, which I think there's nothing come out yet, is quite simply Hibs players who over the 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, anybody catching COVID, all hell will let loose.
Yeah, that's the worry now is the Hibs players, obviously. If any of them catch it from that group of players now, then it could be curtains for the league. I think, Nicola Sturgeon could take strong action on it. But you know, the Hibs were desperate for it not to go ahead, but we're told that it must go ahead. So, like we say, the power of the big ones again, it's taken its toll. But you know, I think it's just a waiting game now to see if any of the Hibs players have actually got the COVID from any of the Celtic players. But it was strange. I was surprised to have seen so many out of the game, and you know, it was actually not a bad game to watch.
Yeah. Brian Haig says still no masks when they're being interviewed. Well, Brian, they are socially distanced from the members of the press. The press are quite a distance away from their own recording material, and that's why trackside managers and players are allowed to be interviewed without the mask. They're a fair distance away from them in these interview situations. So social distancing does take place. I just thought I'd mention that in Scotland, at least. As far as Celtic are concerned, we're talking about a clear out of the SPFL. The amount of Celtic fans I've been speaking to, Tam, who think there should be a clear out at Celtic, I think it's inevitable. With Rangers so far ahead, they're going to be champions. I think it's inevitable that there's a major restructuring that will happen at Celtic. There's a lot of players that will be heading out the door, in my mind. Whether Neil Lennon is going to be the man who'll be able to rebuild another team is open to debate as well. And even now, in their hour of need, when they're coming up against Livingston, Tam, they can't recall players like Jack Henry because a recall wasn't in the deal with Ostend.
Yeah, listen, it's just one thing after another at Celtic at the minute. You know, they're doing everything wrong. You know, in terms of the COVID situation, what I'm surprised about, Peter, is there hasn't been an apology from Celtic, not only to Hibs, but to their own supporters. You know, their own supporters who have paid their money, their season ticket money to start the season, who to a man and a woman didn't want them to go to Dubai. You know, I think every single Celtic supporter you speak to thinks the Dubai trip was a shambles, and they come back and then they see the team that's getting put out against Hibs, and they drop another 2 points. You know, and there's been no apology from Celtic. You know, I find that really disappointing. If I was a Celtic supporter, I'd be asking for questions from the board about why there's been no apology. And I think Hibs players were wanting the Celtic players to be tested on the day of the game, and that request was denied by the SPFL. So that was why there was a big commotion about Hibs possibly playing the game. I don't know why Celtic just didn't say, yeah, we'll test for players today. You know, to give Hibs peace of mind, to give their players peace of mind. And because as you said, if any of the Hibs players pass it on, it's going to be, if Hibs players get this COVID from the Celtic game, maybe in that 5 to 10 days, it's going to be all hell's going to break loose.
So what happens if Celtic players were tested on the day, they still wouldn't have got the results before the game? Celtic have obviously tested as soon as they come. Celtic have tested as soon as they come back from Dubai. Everybody available that's not got COVID was available to play. So to test then again on the day of the game, they wouldn't have got the results back the same day. So there was no point of it. So whatever comes out now.
Charlie, Livingston, I don't know if you read this. Livingston have got a machine from the NHS where you get the results within 2 hours. Yeah,
I've seen that.
So I think Celtic could have done it. I think Celtic could have done it. That was the problem with Hibs going and playing the game.
I think the problem here, and by the way, I mean, there's lots of pundits have had their say on it. Lots of Celtic fans that I think are angry at the way it's all been handled. I think, Roughie, I can't speak for the mindset of the board at the moment, but I think an element of contrition, just to say sorry, we got it wrong, we didn't gauge it right, and then apologise to everybody and say, look, we regret the way it all unfolded. We, we're sorry. We move on. I think they would have gained more respect out of it. I mean, there needs to be a change in the attitude on this one. It's crying out for it. They know they're in the wrong. This kind of a digging their heels in escapes me.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem that they have digged their heels in so far. An apology would make them look even sillier. You know, they've defended going away. They've defended everything they've done. They've told everybody they've not done anything wrong. They've told everybody this. To come out and with a statement of, yeah, we did get it wrong, would possibly, in some people's mind, make it even worse. It wouldn't be worse for me. I think it could be worded properly. I think that statements that come out are very well worded. They don't come out very lightly. It could be, geared towards, the support and obviously everybody that's been let down. But it might happen. Sometimes it happens maybe 4 or 5 days after the event, when things calm down a wee bit and they feel this is the right time to put it out there. We'll have to wait and see on that one, because there are a lot of questions to be answered. One wee minor thing, I can't understand how 13 players couldn't play with the restraints at their bubble. I don't know how Charlie works their bubble, but we were led to believe the players only go about in 2s and 3s and they only sit at meals in 2s and 3s and and that kind of thing. I'm just surprised that 13 and whatever bubble they were all in was proved negative. It's a sore one to get your head round if you're supposed to have been doing everything properly.
Well,
Maybe
I
a
think
bus. Maybe a bus, maybe a coach.
I think it's the coach. Yeah, I think that's where it's happened. Christopher Julian is on the bus, but I don't understand why he's even on the trip. He's out for 4 months. What's he on the trip for?
Yeah, again, another horrendous decision.
And it's like you say, we talk about leadership, and it's just everything at the moment is going at Celtic is just going wrong, and everything today is wrong, and and then even to say Shane Duffy to play after what John Kennedy said to you the other day is madness. He leaves the bubble and goes somewhere else, don't know where he goes, and comes back and said he won't be involved, and then he plays 90 minutes. So it's a huge worry for the club and for, like you say, the Hibs group of players, and obviously Hibs will be wanting an apology from Celtic. It's but at the moment it doesn't seem to be coming.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of soul searching and maybe time for reflection on it. Roughie, you're suggesting 4 or 5 days from now, and maybe someone comes out. I think the horse is bolted.
Too late.
Well, and too late. And I think one thing I do hope happens. I think lessons have to be learned from this, and they move on. Regardless of the mistakes that they may well have made in the trip to Dubai, in the end, that draw with Hibs has cost them dearly. And the league, we thought it was over, more than a month ago, if not a couple of months. But the league is gone. And again, I was speaking with quite a few guys who watched the show, in New York and Australia, Tam, and you could rhyme off loan deals, players that want away, players that have to go back, and players that want out. You could rhyme off 15 to 19 players that need to go at Celtic.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of players leaving Celtic. I just think that standards have slipped massively, not only on the park but off the park since Brendan Rodgers left. I think that's when it's set in. The rot's set in, and you can get away with it for so long. And Celtic got away with it at the start, Neil Lennon coming in and taking over, and they got over the line and different things. But I think this season it's really shown, that how much Celtic have missed Brendan Rodgers. And I think that you've got a top-class manager, and I think Rangers have got a top-class manager. I think Steven Gerrard will go on and be a real top-class manager. And I think that's been the difference between the teams because, as everybody says, I think Celtic and Rangers' squads have not much in it. I think you could argue either way. Rangers have got a better squad than Celtic. Celtic's got a better squad than Rangers. But for me, Rangers have got a far superior manager. And I think that's Steven Gerrard. And I think that's been the key factor in this season. It's been building up that Steven Gerrard is going to go on and be a top-class manager. And I think he's won the league this season. And I think they've obviously a great chance of winning the Scottish Cup as well. So I think that's the difference between the two clubs at the minute is the guy in charge, the manager.
Yeah, and of course the manager who's been sitting in there now going into that, third year. I think his stock is at an all-time high, Charlie.
Yeah, he's going well. The big thing about him is he's humble that they take one game at a time. I think once they get Ryan Jack fit, again, will be another bonus for them. So, Kent, I thought played really well the other day against Aberdeen. Arabo's coming back to what he was like at the start of the season. Listen, Rangers are on a crest of a wave at the moment. Everything is, everything's going wrong at the other side of the city, and they just need to keep their heads and be calm. They won't come out and say the league is over. They'll just take one game at a time as it comes. Motherwell at the weekend, another tough game. But like I said previously in the show, I think Rangers are the only team that will stop themselves. I think they're that dominant, they're that far ahead of everybody else, and it's just when the league title is won, but it is a worry that's a collapse from Celtic has been incredible. But I said as well earlier in the season, and I got crucified from it from Celtic fans, that I've never seen Celtic like this. The rumblings on coming at the club, players want to leave. That's never happened in the last number of years, and then all of a sudden in the biggest season in the club's history, the big players, they all want to leave. There's issues off the pitch, on the training pitch, tactics before games. So it was only a matter of time before it exploded, and it has.
Yeah. Also, and as if to just add insult to injury on this, Boli Bolingoli's coming back to Celtic as well, Roughie, because he's picked up an injury and he goes back to his parent club. So there you are. You couldn't make. Somebody's got to write a book. You couldn't make it up, Roughie, could you? Yeah. I mean, honestly, Boli Bolingoli.
You hate to put him in a bubble. You hate to put him in a bubbly cell. Just put him in a bubble somewhere and throw him out the road.
I mean, he had surgery a couple of weeks ago, didn't he, on an injury?
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, to be fair, for the benefit of anyone, I mean, I think when you look back, it's hard to believe Boli Bolingoli was at the start of the madness when, some people were actually breaking the rules because, they claimed they didn't know. I mean, he certainly knew heading out of the country, but it's hard to believe that was all those months ago when all this madness started. Just out of curiosity, can you guys get your thinking caps on? And we were talking about Lawrence Shankland there and the goal that he scored. We put together a little list of some of the best long-range efforts in Scotland. You might be able to add to it.
Lawrence Shankland scored a goal of the season contender last night as he smashed Dundee United's equaliser in from the halfway line. But where does it rank among the best long-range goals we've seen in Scotland? A decade ago, when playing for Aberdeen, Ryan Jack capitalised on a missed kick from St Johnstone's Peter Enkelman and scored from the halfway mark. Jack's low strike showed it doesn't have to be a beauty as it bounced its way into an empty net. Hibernian goalkeeper Mark Oxley scored with a clearance on his league debut in a 2-1 win against Livingston in 2014. Oxley's goal is one of the longest in recorded SPFL history, kicking from his hands at the edge of his box before the ball bounced over his opposite number. Just 2 months later, it was Oxley who conceded to Edinburgh rivals Hearts as Alim Ozturk thundered in his first goal for the Jambos from 40 yards. The last-minute strike rattled the underside of the bar and earned a 1-1 draw whilst maintaining Hearts' unbeaten start to the season. Adam Hamill was known for his long-range efforts, and his strike against Hibs in 2018 was the pick of the bunch. Under little pressure, he turned on the ball inside his own half and spotted Adam Bogdan off his line, expertly smashing the ball into the net. And finally, who could forget Kemar Roof's goal from the Europa League earlier this season? The Englishman appeared to have nowhere to go as he was running down the clock, but after wrestling off a few challenges, he thundered the ball from the halfway line into the Standard Liège net to secure a memorable 2-0 win for Rangers away in Belgium. There's plenty to pick from. Which one do you think was the best?
Well, if I'm honest with you, Roughie, I'm going to go for Roof because I think he managed to beat two players, have a look up, and then pick his moment. I thought that was the best of them this season. What about you?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was just saying that. I was trying to remember some of the other ones that Gabriel was talking about there, but that one in particular, he did go by 2 or 3 players. He's still a lot to do, and he had to get the ball out of his feet, and it was a tremendous strike.
Charlie?
Yeah, Kemar Roof. I think it was quality, and it was baton down the rain as well, wasn't it? The pitch was soaking, so I would go for that one.
Yeah, and Tam, before I get the one that you're choosing, I know that you're in a major dilemma because Kevin Nisbet scored one for his school team about 13 years ago, and that was special to you. You want to bring that one in, or are you happy with Kemar Roof?
I was going to put Nizzy in for the one he scored in the Red Ash Park in Glasgow. 2004, but I'm going to go for Roof as well. As the guy said there, he takes 2 players on. But you've missed one there for me. Ryan McCann for Queen of the South in the Scottish Cup from about 80 yards. There was no goalkeeper in, right enough, but I don't know if the guys can remember it. And he's just outside his own box and he fired it into the net. So I'll give you Ryan McCann, you mentioned.
Yeah, my apologies to Ryan McCann if we've missed out. And was that this season?
No, it was a long time ago. I just thought we were going back.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was this season. Sorry.
Yeah, and one of our reporters is saying it was only tell Tam to shut it. It was only big teams we were talking about.
Who says that, Gavin?
No,
That's that, Kim.
So there we are. Well done, brilliant. I love it. I love the camaraderie in our team. Nobody gets above their station, Roughie. That's a stonewall certainty. Tell Tam to shut it. It's only big teams. Anyway, Ryan McCann, you're well worthy of a mention. Well done to you, Tam. Livingston against Aberdeen. Of course, David Martindale has got the job on a full-time basis. He's looking forward to this one because, would you believe it, David Martindale mentioned haven't managed to beat Aberdeen.
I think Derek's got a good blend of physicality and ability. And for what you want to speak about Aberdeen's strengths, they're the only team in the Premier League that we've not beaten. And that's in 2.5 years. We're taking points from them, but they're the only team we've not beaten. So that tells me, first and foremost, they've got a very good manager and coaching staff, and secondly, they've got a very good group of players, because we've always historically found it difficult to pick 3 points up.
I have to say, they've been a revelation.
I need him to go to an after-match report, and the reporter asks him about a player, and he goes, he's an absolute dauber, him. He's a dauber.
He is. He does say he's a good tuna fat, doesn't he? Oh, he's doing well. He's still a character for tuna fat. He's brilliant.
Honestly,
If only Jonathan Watson could still get a beer on it.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well done, Roughie. You won't be at Livingston anytime soon, let me tell you. Listen, apart from anything else, I think great credit to David Martindale, because a lot of people, probably looked on it with a certain amount of scepticism. Gary Holt leaving, he's there, he stays. He suddenly gets the job. You know what it's like? Assistants sometimes come in, take jobs, and you think, are they going to be able to do it? And the answer is emphatically no. But he's got something that he's managed to galvanise that squad. And it's some run of games, Tam, of wins as well.
Oh, listen, he's done a fantastic job. I know we're having a laugh there, but he's been brilliant for them. I think they're on their own. I think seven games in the bounce they've won, or 8. I was very, very impressed with them at Easter Road a couple of weeks ago. I thought they've got a great mix. They've got plenty of energy in the middle of the park. I like Pittman. I like Sybil. Robinson's up front's flying. And they're very, very solid at the back. They don't give anything away. So I think he's got a very, very good side there. And listen, I was just looking at it the other night. They were only 6 points behind Hibs. I know Hibs picked up a point, but they're going right up that table, and there'll be teams in front of them looking behind them. If Livingston keep winning. So no, he's done a great job there, and all credit to him.
Yeah, and the other part, I'm glad you mentioned Craig Sibbald. I like Craig Sibbald. He's a good player. He's a good lad as well, and he thinks they could finish third.
Personally, I don't see why we can't go and try and get 4 for third if we keep playing the way we're going. So it's obviously the aim to try and win every game and finish as high as you can. Exactly, I don't see why not. We're on a good run, so hopefully we can keep that up, and who knows where it'll take us.
I'm glad Sibbald has got the number 10, Charlie, because only good players with a good touch and a bit of skill should wear the number 10 jersey. He's well worthy of it.
Yeah, no, he's a good player, and I like, obviously Scott Robertson scored 4 and 5 in the last 5 league games, so they're on a crest of a wave, like I keep saying. They're 6 unbeaten in the league, won 6 games in a row. This is a good game, 2 good teams. I expect a lot of goals. Livingston scored a few goals. They scored 2+ goals in the last few games as well. So it'll be a good game, and fair play to Livingston. I watched them earlier in the season against Dundee United, and I thought, wasn't too sure about them. But since Gary Holt's gone, they've kicked on, and Dave Martindale's done an excellent job.
Yeah, and Derek McInnes, full of praise for him.
That's me back. That's
Tam back, by the way. Tam's back.
Everybody.
That's Tam back, everybody. 2 Guinness.
Tam's back.
2 Guinness, a chaser. You want a whiskey? You want ice in it? Yeah, that's Tam back now, everybody. Settle down.
I get cut off, sorry.
I know we've had no opinion whatsoever. That's Tam back now. Yeah, Tam, what would you like to say?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Brilliant. Anyway, we were about to hear from Derek McInnes.
No, they've won again. Their players have really responded to Davey getting in there, and I know there's this talk about him, whether he gets become the manager and from his background. If ever a boy deserves to do the job he's enjoying doing and clearly doing well, it's him. So they're a brilliant story, Livingston. They have been for the last few years, and it's always a tough game. You ask any manager, Livy away is one of the toughest fixtures in the calendar. And
yeah, okay. Are we putting this in the predictions, by the way, Roughie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a league game, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
What are you going for, Roughie?
I was quietly impressed with Aberdeen against Rangers before the player gets sent off, so I think they want to keep the run going, so I'm going to go Aberdeen 2-1.
Wow, I'm going to go 1-1, Tam.
I think it's a tactical point of view.
Well,
I'm going to Livingston 2-1.
I'll go 2-2.
2-2, Charlie. Right, okay. I see where you're going,
2-1,
Charlie. Yeah, okay. That should put the cat among the pigeons in this. I like Stuart Ramsey, who sent us a message on the Facebook. Thanks, Stuart. I think sometimes I always like to compliment the people who watch the show and people who offer their opinions on their team and their intelligent opinions as well. Sometimes people offer their opinion on us and we have to take it in the chin. Sometimes we just have to take criticism. People like us, some people don't like us. It's as simple as that. But Stuart Ramsey, I think, has offered some great punditry. He's just said, Tam's a dauber. And I think that's fair comment now that Tam is back. Tam is back with us.
That's quite tame for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
Cheers,
Stuart. Maybe in the future, Tam and David Martindale could do their own programme as well when Roughie and I hang up our microphone. And thank you to Margaret as well, who mentioned something, Roughie. I've got to give her a mention because I saw it there. She said, wouldn't it be great to get Peter and Roughie back on television again? They should be back on television, the whole squad. Roughie, the great thing about the way the modern day technology is going, Margaret can get it up on her big screen. If she just clicks her YouTube on her apps on the telly, boom, we're there.
She can see Roughie in high definition.
Oh, absolutely.
What a treat that
You
is.
can see it.
Yeah.
And
you can see every hair in his eyebrows.
There are some televisions where Roughie looks as if he's just sneaking a wee look inside your room. Those tellies are quite expensive. And sometimes if you pay a lot of money, he'll stand outside in your garden. It's as simple as that. So anyway, thank you, Margaret, for that nice compliment. We're happy where we are on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook, and of course on Twitter as well. And you can get us on Instagram. So we are well and truly happy with what we're doing here. And hopefully you'll spread it and share it with your friends. The programme, that is, Margaret. Share it with your friends. Let them know 4 o'clock every day we're on. So we've given our predictions as far as the football is concerned north of the border. A couple of things I always like to mention as well, guys, with regards to south of the border. Man United are top of the table, Roughie. It was a hard game to watch because Burnley are one of those teams that under normal circumstances I would not turn the telly on to watch them. Their football from a bygone era, but Manchester United's goal. Yeah, well, there's a place for Route 1 football and hustle and bustle, but Man United got the win. Can Man United win the league, Roughie?
At this moment in time, I wouldn't bet against it. I don't think any of the other teams are showing any consistency whatsoever. So I think it'll be the team that puts on a wee extended run and takes points off of the other teams round about them. But isn't it wonderful to see that team player Pogba now chipping in? That player that we all love to hate, but he really liked his goal last night.
Oh, of course, but he'll be off in the summer, Charlie. Any doubt?
I don't know. Every time we change, I think at one point in the season I was saying you need to get rid of him. Now I'm thinking he might be there longer. You just don't know. This agent of his is just an absolute clown at times, isn't he? He always likes to upset the apple cart. But when Pogba's playing at his best, he is a joy to watch at times. You know, and last night the quality, the technique, and some of the things he can do with the ball is brilliant. But like we said before the show, I think it's good to see Man United back up there. Nobody expected it, and now it sets up for a great game on Sunday. It's a game that'll be, you know, these games are normally intense and good rivalry. Liverpool have had the edge over the last couple of years and how they've been playing, and so it'll be interesting to see how Man United come at that top of the league.
Yeah.
You know, 3 points clear. So you know, bit of pressure on Liverpool.
Absolutely, Anfield. One of those games that would have been absolutely buzzing with fans, but they'll all be watching from their homes, kicking every ball. It's going to be a tough one for United, a big test, according to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
We're almost halfway through the season, so it's a little bit of an indication of where you're at. But no one will remember the league table the 12th of Jan. Looking forward to it. Where of course you enjoy being where we are at any time. If it's the first game or last game, it's a big difference. But at the moment we are where we are. You got to go in there knowing that we play against the team that's been by a mile the best in the country for the last year and a half. They're champions by right, and we need to. Or we're looking forward to it, and it's a great test of where we're at against a good team.
Can Man United win it, Tam? Do you think they'll win it? There's a better question.
I think they can win it, but I don't think they will. I still fancy Man City. I think they're starting to hit their stride. They look very, very solid at the back, and they won comfortably at Old Trafford in the League Cup there a couple of nights ago. So I fancy Man City, but that's a big game for Liverpool. As Charlie said, the pressure's on Liverpool for the first time in a wee while. You know, if Man United win that, they go 6 points clear of them. That's a decent gap at this stage of the season. So it's a game that Liverpool, I think, can't afford to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. It's Man City, Brighton and Spurs Fulham tonight, if you were watching that football, as well as, let's not forget, Livingston and Aberdeen going head-to-head too. So you've got your choice of football if you like football.
Got to be Livingston
of the week. Yeah, it's got to be.
Livy TV. I'll tune into Livy TV tonight.
Yep, we always like to catch up and see who's on and what comments they're going to make as well. I think you've got us interested in that, Tam, because obviously you started out in Hibs TV, and Roughie and I were forced to obviously listen in to hear you blethering away in your punditry and the level of punditry that you offer. You've got us hooked on it, by the way. Yep. It's a changing face of football, Roughie.
Peter, you got a wee shift the other night, son. You kept that.
Well, honestly,
he's back in the game.
He's back in.
The commentary is back, Roughie. It's been such a long time, honestly, and the buzz from commentating was magnificent. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, Roughie. It was one of those. It just brought back so many great memories of great games that have been commentating down through the years. I mean, you and I can remember just walking into the Parc des Princes in Paris, loving commentary.
I think it's the same old thing. Here we are, or here I am, where it's live. That's what makes it, you know. And obviously, your commentary is second to none when you hear some of the stuff that's going on now that you have to put up with at the weekend. So, you know, yes, you know, it is. You know, there's good commentators and there's bad commentators, and you know, you have to say just because you're on, you know, that it's a tragedy you've been away so long.
Oh, what a nice gesture!
It's good he's back. It's good he's back.
Just remember when you need guests, who to call.
Absolutely. Anyway, apart from anything else, just one little thing I've got to mention. I think it would be remiss of me not to mention it. Ronaldo. Tonight, if he scores against Genoa, he's the top goal scorer for club and country of all time. He's level with Bekan at the moment, and 759. Now, just before we go, he's got to be considered alongside. If there's an argument now for some people to suggest that his achievements are better than Messi's. The battle is who's the better player, and a lot of people will go for Messi. But this guy has won league titles in Spain, in England, in Italy, And he's
tested
breaking
himself, Peter.
goal-scoring records. He's absolutely... And by the way, let's not forget, apart from obviously picking up the injury in the European Championships, all the way there, getting them there and getting them to the point where they could win it, he was the main man. He stepped up to the plate when people were saying, are you good? Do you think you're world class? Can you deliver in the big games? And he's emphatically answered yes. I mean, he's in the top 5 players of all time, but there's a real battle in history, I think, coming up between his contribution and Messi's. Tell me otherwise, Tam.
No, I think you're right. And I think that Ronaldo's tested himself in 3 top leagues. I think that's an argument you could say about Messi. He's been comfortable at Barcelona, playing in a top team, you know, and scoring all those goals, but he's never tested himself outside of that. Plus, Ronaldo has done brilliant for his country. He's won them a European Championship, and Messi's not managed to do that for Argentina yet. So I think Messi's a better footballer. I think he's a better player, but I think that in terms of the overall contribution, you've got to argue Ronaldo's had a better career in terms of what he's done for club and country.
There's a great point here, Charlie, that I want you to assess. Craig Jack has just made a fantastic point on our social media on Facebook. He says, I think we disregard him because he loves himself. I mean, I actually think...
No,
but Craig is just absolutely nailed with a lot of people, I think, and it goes against him, and it shouldn't.
No, listen, he is what he is, you know, he's confident in himself, and to be fair, that he's worked ever so hard, and probably until the two of them retire, we won't appreciate what we've actually seen. You know, the two of them have been going at it for, you know, year on, year off for a long, long time, and you keep talking about football. As an actual footballer, you would say Messi's the better footballer, but what Ronaldo's achieved, and if he beats that tonight, you've got to put him at the top of the greatest player ever to walk on the planet. On what he's achieved, his record, his numbers, his goals, it's phenomenal, and it doesn't look like he's stopping either, does it? He doesn't want to go and play in America. He looks like he wants to keep playing in the top leagues and being dominant. So, no, fair play to him. What an unbelievable.
I'd love to know what he's like in the dressing room with the other players. You know, he has that. You know that look. I'm just wondering how he mixes with the other players and in the dressing room. I'd love to know how he would react to his shirt getting half in two and his leggies trousers getting cut off, to see what kind of guy he is. If he's one of the boys or something like that. I'd love to see how he would react to the Raljacks, putting Raljacks in his pants and that. You know, I'd love to see what kind of real guy he is. If he's a real guy or just a Ronaldo guy.
For me, is he's had that grounding at Man United with your Scholes, your Giggs, you know, Fletchers and all that. So he's had that British mentality a little through at the start of his career. So he could have he'll handle that no problem. It's just like you say, what is he like as a person? Like, you know, is he a good teammate? Is he, you know, does he believe that he believes he's the best player ever to grace the planet, you know what I mean? You can see that. Yeah. But is he a good teammate? Will he, you know, have a laugh and a joke? I think he probably would. And fair play to him.
Yeah, and I think, Roughie, you make a very good point there. How would he react if Gaza put 2 salmon in his Ferrari and hid one in the engine and one underneath the seat? That's the making of a person, to be perfectly honest with you.
He'd probably just push up his garage and go and get his Bugatti out that he paid 3 or 4
million. How he reacts when he's in the communal bath and somebody throws something in it for the toilet. How he reacts to that.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Roughie. Anyway, apart from anything else, and thanks to Alec Kelly. Alec usually waits for his moment to pounce, and he likes to hammer everyone who is every now and then. And he says, "Tell Tam, how can Messi win the Euros, you numpty?" And I know where you were coming from, Tam. You were talking about Messi delivering the World Cup for Argentina.
Yeah,
absolutely. But Alec, I like the fact that you're still coiled like a spring.
On the ball, he's on the ball.
Any slip.
No mistakes allowed in this show.
I've thoroughly enjoyed. Are you kidding? I've thoroughly enjoyed the show today. Great bit of banter, great chat. Hopefully you have too. Hit the follow button now, because on Facebook We want to try and get those followers. We've got thousands upon thousands joining the football family. So if you can, follow it, share the stream. And if you're on our YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well. Next month coming up, we've got a fantastic hat trick of prizes to give away. And it really is a fantastic competition. We'll give you more details of that as we get closer to the month starting February 1st. Not to be missed. Listen, top drawer, the football chat. Thanks to Roughie. Thanks to Charlie Adam, as ever, on Top Forum. And Tam McManus as well. Thank you to you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.